They say every town has its secrets, but some secrets are darker than anyone can imagine. And in Villisca, Iowa, one night in June 1912 revealed a horror that would haunt a small community and the world forever. It was a quiet Sunday night, the kind where fireflies flickered across lawns and neighbors bid each other good night as the moon hung low in the sky. But inside the Moore family home, a nightmare was unfolding that would never be forgotten. By morning, 8 people were dead. 6 members of the Moore family, including young children and 2 young house guests, all murdered in cold blood with an axe. The brutality was unimaginable, the motives unknown, and the case would become one of America's most infamous unsolved mysteries. You might wonder, what could drive someone to commit such a horrific crime? The more investigators dug, the stranger the story became. This wasn't a simple robbery gone wrong. Nothing was taken from the house, money, valuables, even a pocket watch left untouched, and there were no signs of struggle beyond the desperate attempts of the family to protect themselves. It was as if someone had come in, silent and calculating, intent on nothing but murder. The crime scene itself told a chilling story. The children, aged 11, 10, 7, and 5, had been struck in their beds, their small bodies lifeless, faces frozen in terror. The 2 young girls who had spent the night as guests were also brutally murdered. And yet, the killer had done something strange. After the carnage, the house was left in near-perfect order. It was a clean, almost ritualistic crime, the kind that made local law enforcement question whether they were dealing with a normal human being or something far more sinister. Over the years, many theories emerged. Some suggested a vengeful neighbor, angry over a petty dispute. Others pointed to a traveling preacher, a man seen near town that night, who vanished without a trace. Even the notion of a deranged serial killer who had been striking similar homes across the Midwest was considered, but no evidence ever pointed conclusively to anyone. The clues, the few that existed, were as fleeting and elusive as shadows in the night. And then there was the behavior of the townspeople themselves, which seemed almost haunted. Neighbors spoke of hearing footsteps in the Moore house long after the murders, of flickering lights and doors creaking open on their own. Some reported seeing shadowy figures in the windows at night, and a few claimed they heard faint whispers carried on the wind. The house, once a place of warmth and family, became a vessel of fear, a monument to horror that no one could explain. Perhaps the strangest detail of all came from the knives and axe left at the scene. The murder weapon, a common axe found in the Moore household, had been carefully wiped clean of fingerprints. Whoever committed this act wasn't just violent. They were methodical, meticulous, and terrifyingly calm. And yet, despite the effort, they left behind a signature of sorts. The brutal precision, the targeting of the entire family, the chilling silence that followed. It was almost as if the murderer wanted the world to remember what had happened, to be horrified, to be obsessed, just like we are today. In the years that followed, suspects came and went. One man, a traveling handyman, had a history of strange behavior and was briefly arrested, but even he could not be tied conclusively to the crime. Another theory focused on the Moore's neighbors, suggesting jealousy or rivalry, but again, evidence was lacking. Every lead twisted back on itself, leaving the case shrouded in uncertainty, a puzzle with missing pieces that could never be found. What makes the Villisca Axe murders particularly haunting is not just the brutality, it's the questions that remain. Why did the killer choose this family? Why that night and not another? Was it a calculated act of revenge, a random choice, or something even darker, a compulsion beyond understanding? And why, even over a century later, do people report feeling unease near the house, as if the echoes of that night still linger in the air? Some have claimed that the house itself is cursed, that the spirits of the victims remain trapped within its walls. Paranormal investigators have visited, cameras in hand, recording unexplained shadows and footsteps that seem to move with intent. Visitors report sudden chills, oppressive feelings, and the sense that someone or something is watching. Perhaps it's the residual fear of that night, a lingering imprint of terror that refuses to fade. Or perhaps, just perhaps, it's a warning. Some horrors are never meant to be understood. The Villisca Axe Murder House still stands today, preserved almost as a shrine to its dark past. Tourists and true crime enthusiasts come from across the country, drawn by the story seeking to witness the place where 8 lives were cut tragically short. And yet, no matter how many people walk its halls, the house keeps its secrets. Each creaking floorboard and each flickering light seems to whisper, "Remember what happened here," but never try to understand it fully. It's easy to look at a century-old case and distance ourselves from the fear, to treat it as a story from the past. But horror doesn't age neatly. It lingers, hidden in the shadows, in the questions left unanswered, in the imagination of those who hear the tale. And in Villisca, Iowa, that horror still lives. Some say the answer might lie in the psychology of the killer, in obsessions and compulsions that normal humans can barely comprehend. Others argue that some events are inexplicable, a reminder that evil exists without reason or rhyme. But whatever the truth, one thing is certain: the Villisca Axe murderer left a mark that can never be erased. And every time someone enters that house, or hears the story, they step closer to that darkness, feeling the chill of a terror that refuses to die. So the next time you hear about an unsolved murder, about a house that stands silent yet menacing, remember the Moors. Remember the children who went to bed safe and never woke up. Remember the visitors whose curiosity led them into a horror that refuses to let go. And remember that some secrets are never meant to be solved. They are meant to be felt, lingering in the shadows of our own imaginations. If you want to experience the fear yourself, you can visit the Villisca Axe Murder House today, or watch footage from inside. But be warned, the house doesn't reveal its secrets easily. Some who enter report nightmares for weeks afterward, a reminder that what happened there wasn't just history, it was horror. And while the killer's identity may never be known, the terror remains, echoing through time. Every night in Villisca, you can almost hear it: the quiet shuffle of footsteps, the distant whisper of children, the sound of an axe swinging in the darkness. It's a reminder that some monsters are real and some stories never end. So next time you lock your doors at night, remember the Moors, remember the shadows, and remember that true horror doesn't just live in stories, it lives in the questions that can never be answered. If you're brave enough to dive deeper into the Villisca Axe murder mystery, subscribe, hit the bell, and join us as we explore more stories that chill the bones and haunt the imagination. Because in the world of unsolved horrors, there is always more lurking just beyond the shadows, waiting for someone to notice.